Hi, I'm Mark from Sounds in Sync, the developer of EdiLoad. In this video, I'll show how the Scene Remap window can automate the process of building atmosphere edits in Pro Tools by working scene by scene. By importing a scene change track created by EdiLoad, the Scene Remap window can generate a Re-Conform change list that lets you automatically recut sound elements to match each production scene. This can include checkerboarded atmosphere tracks, where fades can be added in Pro Tools, along with scene-specific elements such as reverb settings and other sound design assets. Rather than reconforming one reel or episode into the next, the Scene Remap window builds each new reel or episode from a reusable library of scene-based edits. That means once you have created an atmosphere edit or set up scene-specific processing for a location, that work can be reused wherever that scene appears again. In this video, I'll show how to load production scenes from a scene change track and create a reusable scene library. I'll then edit atmospheres and create reverb settings for those library scenes, generate a production change list, and reconform the results back onto the production timeline as a checkerboarded edit. I'll also show how the same library can be expanded and reused when the next episode arrives. To use the Scene Remap workflow, you first need a scene change track in your Pro Tools session. If you haven't created one yet, see the Create Scene Change Track video. The link is in the description below. Make sure there is a scene clip on this track at every location change or scene change point. For example, some scene change tracks may not show edits between alternate sides of a phone conversation. These edits need to be present with the clips named accordingly, so alternate backgrounds are created in the atmosphere edit. Here in Pro Tools, I have a session open containing a scene change track for episode 1 of a TV series. I now open the Scene Remap window and click Get Session. EdiLoad reads the scene clips directly from the scene numbers track and loads them into the production scenes list. At this stage, these are the scenes that need atmosphere edits and any other scene-specific elements. Next, I'll click Create New. EdiLoad generates a library scenes list containing all the unique production scenes arranged in alphabetical order with a set duration and gap between each scene. See the settings window to set the length of each library clip and the gap between each clip. At this point, I can review the scene descriptions, update them if needed, and delete any scenes I don't want in the library. This is important because the library scene names may be reused across multiple reels or episodes, so they should contain only the essential scene identity, typically the location and time of day. For example, if a scene description contains action-specific text, such as this, the extra action text should be removed so the reusable library scene description becomes this. If needed, I can also use the Scene Remap settings to strip any text after a delimiter. So the scene descriptions are automatically simplified. Once the library scenes list is ready, I'll click Export New. EdiLoad now creates a new SceneLib track in the current Pro Tools session and adds a clip group for each library scene. EdiLoad creates these clips at the next whole hour after the production scenes, but they can be moved anywhere that suits your session layout. In this example, I'll move the library scenes further down the timeline to 13 hours, so there is room to edit all 12 episodes in the series before them. Now that the session contains both the production scene track and the new library scene track, I'll click Get Session again so that the Scene Remap window reloads the current scene clips. The next step is to build the sound material for each library scene. To help with that, EdiLoad can create a library change list that lets me reconform the source material from the production scenes into the library scenes. So here I'll click create lib list. EdiLoad sends a change list to the main window, and I can use that with the Pro Tools Re-Conform function to bring across useful material such as guide tracks, pictures and dialogue stems, or any clips that have already been edited. Now I can go through each library scene and build the actual atmosphere edit and add any scene specific assets. Here is a session where I've created a basic atmosphere edit for each library scene. I also mocked up some sample reverb settings for the interior scenes. These can be created while playing the reconformed guide or dialogue stem along with the atmosphere edit. Once the library scenes have been edited and all the required elements are in place, I can use the Scene Remap window to build the change list that reconforms the library scenes back to the production scenes. Before we do this, let's check the settings window. While generating the production change list, EdiLoad can repeat the library scenes as many times as needed to fill the duration of the production scene, randomize the source location within the library scene so repeated scenes don't always start at the same point, and export either a single list or a checkerboarded A/B list with handles which can be set here. For atmosphere editing, the checkerboard list option is especially useful because it lets you apply the reconform to duplicated atmosphere tracks and create a checkerboard edit at each scene change point. In this example, I'll create a checkerboard A production list ready to apply back in Pro Tools. As I wish to create a checkerboarded atmosphere edit of episode 1, I first need to duplicate my atmosphere tracks. With the checkerboard A list loaded, I use the EdiLoad Pro Tools Re-Conform function to apply it to the first set of atmosphere tracks. This automatically recuts the library scene edits so they match the production scene track. So instead of editing every scene from scratch in timeline order, I'm reusing the work already done in the scene library. This is where the Scene Remap window really starts to save time. As you can see, I also created the checkerboard B list and applied that to the second set of atmosphere tracks. I then created a single change list and reconformed the reverb settings with that. Once the reconform is complete, I can use the Batch Fades window in Pro Tools to quickly apply new fade-ins and fade-outs across all the reconformed atmosphere clips. And finally, it's now best to play each transition to see if any need a longer fade. Now let's look and see what happens when the next episode arrives. Here I've brought in the scene change track for episode 2 into the same session that already contains my scene library. If the previous episode's production scenes are still in the session, I can simply mute those clips, so EdiLoad ignores them when loading the current production scenes. Now I'll click Get Session. EdiLoad automatically attempts to match each production scene in episode 2 with an existing library scene. Any scenes that already exist in the library are matched straight away. If there are new scenes, I can click Create New, and EdiLoad appends just those new scenes to the library scenes list. Then I click Export New to add the new scene clip groups after the existing scenes on the scene lib track. From here, I only need to edit the atmosphere, reverbs and any other reusable elements for the new scenes. Once that's done, I click Get Session again, confirm all matches, and create the new production change list for episode 2. As before, I then run the 3 reconforms in Pro Tools, 2 passes for the checkerboarded atmospheres and 1 pass for the reverb settings. EdiLoad automatically builds the edit for episode 2 from the scene library. So instead of starting over for each episode, the scene library keeps growing and the amount of new work gets smaller as more scenes are reused. Here are the reconformed clips for episode 2. The big advantage of the Scene Remap workflow is that it changes the way atmosphere editing can be approached across reels or episodes. Instead of treating each cut as a one-off edit, you build this reusable scene library once and then let EdiLoad reapply that work wherever those scenes appear. See the EdiLoad user guide in the EdiLoad help menu for the most up-to-date information on how to use the Scene Remap window. To try EdiLoad for yourself, either on macOS or Windows, just head to the download page of the website. Once the app is installed, just run it and click Try to activate a trial license.